Okay, welcome. I'm going to give a second. I just ended a live. I'm going to give everyone a chance to pop back in if they want. Okay. Today I am talking about difficult conversations and ways that you can share information about what's happening with people who might be a little resistant to hear it. So I'm looking at this as creating a culture around conversation that is supportive of love. So I'm going to suggest some perspectives, hey Robert, that might seem counterintuitive and wrong. And if you disagree with them, that's okay. This is just what I've seen and what I believe to be true. And I really encourage everyone to have their own beliefs and truths and stuff. Okay, so the first thing to consider is that nobody's walking around saying, I'm a racist. And nobody's walking around saying, I'm a villain. And those that are probably actually more willing to hear information than those that aren't. So when you encounter someone, I think it's easiest to use grandparents. Let's say you encounter a grandparent who is having difficulty understanding the magnitude of what's happening and the opportunity that's present. What could you do? The first thing is to create space for them to feel like they've been heard. What? But they need to listen. What? But if you want them to hear you, they need to be heard. So there's actually a great book by an FBI negotiator. I think it's called Never Split the Difference. And this is it's so crazy. In the earlier live, when I was talking about what I was going to talk about, I introduced the idea that the way that we'll lay out the conversation order is kind of like magic. And it's creating a context, like a container, and you are inviting someone into the container and you are inviting them to become comfortable. And in that comfort, then information, like if it's not like this, then the perimeter opens and information can get in, but they need to feel safe and trust you first. So I guess what I was saying with the magic thing is when you become attuned to this as a way to shift what somebody thinks, you'll see where perhaps what you've been thinking was shifted. But that's for a different day. So anyhow, use this in love and truth and in support of like everyone being one. All right. So if you're just joining, what I'm talking about today is how to have conversations around what's happening with the Black Lives Matter movement with somebody like your grandparents. And let's say that you initially met a lot of resistance with them on the topic. They might have some opinions that they've had for a really long time, and they're not really willing to hear yours or where you're coming from. Hey, Solange. So if that is the case, what I'm suggesting is first to listen. So I would suggest that because this is such an important thing and this is such a critical time, there's no rush. And so what you can do is create the expectation that this is going to be maybe like a 2-week, maybe a 2-month, maybe a 2-year endeavor. But that if you are patient, it's inevitable because like light is undeniable. Ultimately, eventually, in the right conditions. So the first thing is to allow the person that you're talking to have their own voice, hear them. So the first thing you could do is ask, what do they think about what's going on? And rather than jump right back at it, saying what you think and why they're wrong, just listen. That's it. Create some safe space. Blank space is the most underutilized conversational tool ever. Ask them. Tell me, I see that you're watching that. What do you think about that? Inside, when you're listening, you might be thinking, you motherfucker, you don't. But on the outside, keep it cool. If this is the role that you're playing, if you are committed to sharing information and opening the door to a new perspective to these people, Let them feel safe. And this is something that's controversial, and maybe not everyone agrees with me, but I don't believe that anybody is evil or wrong. I think that we are all functions of a system, and some people are playing bad guys and some people are playing good guys, but we're all the same. And if you can open the door for someone to safely return to the good guy side, they probably will. But if you reinforce that they're the bad guy, then they're going to play that role. So the whole opportunity here is to create space for someone to come to their own conclusions about what it's like. It's undeniable. Like, we're all people, we're all connected, but nevertheless. Okay, so the first step, ask one. Hey, I see you're watching what's going on. Hey, you probably heard what's going on. What do you think about that? Blank space. And if you want to really open up the door, reiterate back to them what they said in a way that's not damning. Oh, it sounds like you feel this way because of that. Is that right? Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood. And then if you can close the conversation, go somewhere else. That would be day one. Day one in the books. They're thinking, what the fuck? This person has been fighting me for years on this topic. What the fuck? And that's where we begin. The next step, you might, depending on how deep they're in it, you might need to do that one a few times. Wash and repeat. The second step would be to start to ask why. Explain to me why you feel that way. Really try to understand. Don't do it to like entertain them. Really try to understand. Pretend that it's possible that they might have a good point and you really want to find it and know what it is. Let's say that this is your grandparent. Let's say that this is your dad. And in general, you trust them. And so you could say like, I really trust this person in general. I don't agree with what they're saying. Let me see if I can understand where they're coming from. And really fucking try. Don't worry, you don't have to surrender what you think or what you believe or anything to go there with them. Really, just try. That's it. This is all part of creating the safe space because, again, if you walk up to somebody and you say, you're a racist and here's why you should change, you know what they're going to say? So we're trying to work with. Always work with. Work with what's present. So far we had step one, which just ask, what do you think? And depending how deep they are in their disconnection, you might need to do that a few times. And so really, you are just creating space for them to feel heard. And honestly, like, try to. Really try. Like, you don't have to believe them. You don't have to listen. Just, it's almost like if somebody wrote another book about physics, another interpretation, I'm going to look through it and see like, okay, well, what's in here? I don't have to change what I think. I can just look what's in here. The next step is to ask why and really help, really try to find out their why. Can you tell me more about why you think that? And don't come at it from a place, like if you start to get emotionally upset, then that's it. Oh, the main topic today is how to have conversations about the Black Lives Movement with people who might not have been willing to have them before. So the why next would be, so with why, where was I? All right, so why, try to get at their why, like their really deep why. If you start to get upset, close it, like shut it down. That's it for today. Like you're done. Like only go as far as you can handle yourself. This might take time and that's okay. Put the things in perspective. This is a huge opportunity. Things are coming up and everyone has an opportunity to see them anew. And so there is no rush to push anything onto somebody because if you push it down, they're going to put it right back out. And so we're just creating a new landscape where everybody can come out and it's okay that they were wrong. So if you come at them like they're bad or they're stupid or they're this or they're that, it's very unlikely that they will be willing to hear you. So step one, ask them what they think. Step two, try to understand why. Really, both of those steps might take a very long time and you might have to sit on a lot of things you think or feel. If that's uncomfortable for you or that doesn't feel like the right thing, don't listen to me, follow your own guidance. But if this is something that you are committed to facilitating, expect that it might take some time and that you might not have the opportunity to express eloquently why they're so fucking wrong. Okay. Oh, and again, like when you're doing the interview, assume, please, if you can, take off the idea that they're wrong. Really, like, show up like you didn't know them and ask, like, oh, that's curious. I've never heard of that before. Can you really tell me about it? All right, the next step is once you create space, eventually, and you'll know when, you can say what you want, how you feel, explain your rationale and say, okay, yeah, that, here's why I think that this is blah, 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 period. You don't need to teach them why they need to think like you think. You don't need to compare how they think to you think. You can just say, this is what I think, period, and then walk away. I really think you should do this in doses. Dose it. The next part would be, so what you think and then why you think it would be the later part. And then over time, if you want to, you can throw them a rope and start to do like conversate. You could do like, and this is some trippy shit, but this is like really how people work. You could tell a story about somebody you know who came across new information and it changed their minds. Not relevant to this topic. If you tell it about a different topic, it actually opens the door in their head that it's okay. This is so crazy. That's really how the mind works. All right, so this is the first time I was ever talking about something like this, and so I didn't do that great of a job, but I'll probably breach it again during this week. So, all right, so I'm gonna take it from the top, and I'm gonna use this space to practice expressing. So what I wanted to share today were some expectations and techniques that you could try in communicating the magnitude and the opportunity of what's happening in the Black Lives Movement with family members or friends or people in your community who might not have been open to that information before. I'm suggesting that you take a long-term perspective, that you put your ego aside, meaning that you don't need to be right. If you come in and you act, I love you. If you come in and act like you need to be right, then you expect to meet resistance and expect to like miss the point. So one of my favorite concepts is like, keep the main thing the main thing. And is the main thing that you're right, or is the main thing that this information is shared with someone who probably really would like to have it, but just is scared about integrating it into their framework of life? And that is like, I can't tell you enough. Like, there probably are some people that are bad seeds. I don't know. But I really believe if you give people an opportunity to do well or do better, or like, they will. And so think of this as like you're kind of calling them home, and almost like saying like, it's okay that you didn't understand. It's okay that you didn't see it this way before. It's okay. It's okay. Of course you didn't understand. Of course you couldn't. Of course, based on everything that you were told, this is what you thought. Of course. Like, if you can feel that in your heart where you say, it's okay, I understand why you're confused, it'll make these conversations so much easier, because it's again, it's not a fight. It's a coming together. So I suggested that you've opened up the conversation by creating space for them to express what they think about what's going on without you responding and without you judging. And then I suggested perhaps at a different time, because that'll probably like really confuse them if you allowed that to happen where maybe that hadn't been your pattern before. And at a different time, create space for them to explain why. And really try to understand. And maybe as you take them through that process of trying to understand, they will try to understand themselves. And that might be enough for them to be like, oh, I've been holding this thing, but that doesn't quite make sense. Oops. But when someone is embarrassed about their intelligence, or they are fearful about their worth relative to how other people perceive them, it's really hard to wrestle out of them ideas that don't work. But if the space is safe and they feel supported and understood and not judged, they'll usually pass them off to you. So your job here is actually to befriend the people that you would like to share this information with. Over time, there might be space in the relationship for you then to share what you really think and why you think that. And if you can share it in a way that isn't imposing it on them, or expressing it like it's the only way or the right way, they might hear you. People follow inspiration more than, I think, any other thing sustainably. If you can inspire them through your own example, through your own humility, through your own patience, peace, and understanding, there is a greater chance that you will be able to communicate and share the information that they probably would like to have, but are too scared. Okay, so if you're joining, what I talked about today was how to have conversations around the Black Lives Matter movement with people in your world who might not have been very open or supportive of that conversation previously. And I think love is the answer. And whenever it's sort of ironic and useless to me to create more lines around who's doing what, or who's this or who's that, and what's occurring. This is an opportunity to me for everyone to kind of surrender their differences in a way that they're not lines that separate, but rather things that we appreciate. And if we can embrace those who have been misguided and create a safe bridge for them to walk back towards everyone else, like, I think that's pretty profound. And so if we can look at this less as a battle to win, but rather a possibility to demonstrate, I think there's a lot of opportunity here. Would anyone like to say anything? This was a tougher one. I usually don't talk to current events. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming. I'm not sure if I'm going to post this. I'll probably put up a piece, maybe the end where I recap. Okay, thank you so much. I love you. Bye.